You are listening to Radio Cardiff, and I am Jessie Grace. On this Wednesday afternoon, I've got my wonderful guest Lisa with me, talking about Do No Harm Wales, which has been set up to support whistleblowers in the NHS. So we were just thinking, if there's anybody out there who wants to get in touch or needs to get in touch, maybe they need some support, how can they get in touch, Lisa?
Well, first of all, if you look out for people on Twitter who have in their Twitter bio, Do No Harm Wales, they will be proper members of the network. So, there's quite a few of us on Twitter. Also, I have an email address, so you could email us on Do No Harm Wales, and that's all small case, at gmail.com.
So just Do No Harm Wales at gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
Yeah, all lowercase.
Small case, yeah.
And what advice would you give to anybody out there if they were thinking that they needed to raise concerns or whistleblowing, if they were needed, support? What advice would you give them?
Well, this is the conundrum, really, is that, as part of a professional duty, most frontline medics have to whistleblow if they feel that they're in that situation. And certainly when I raised it with my insurance company, that was their advice: you need to whistleblow. I think us in Do No Harm Wales, we would say think very long and very hard about doing that. And most people that have come to us, we have advised them, don't do it now. Get another job and then do it. Because you know that as soon as you whistleblow, you are going to be bullied and you are very likely to lose your career. It's going to be very, very complicated. There will be impacts on your family, impacts on your mental health. In summary, don't whistleblow unless you absolutely have to. Get in contact with us and we can probably talk you through a safe way to do it.
Okay, brilliant. That's fantastic for anybody listening out there. We're going to play another tune now before we go to the news and weather, and then we will be back.
You are listening to Unity in Our Community on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.
You like that one, didn't you, Lisa?
Yeah, the world's in trouble.
So that's why we're trying to be part of the solutions, and you're trying to be part of solutions with Do No Harm Wales. And we were chatting before. So Lisa is my guest today, if you've just tuned in, and she is with a campaign group, Do No Harm Wales, which support whistleblowers from the NHS particularly. But we were chatting and we were saying that maybe we could just hear a little bit more, if you're happy to share, about your own kind of personal story, because then it kind of like explains a little bit more. It goes into the subject a little bit deeper, I think, to realise, some of the issues. And often my personal thoughts when I hear stories like yours is, human beings are so complicated, aren't they? And then we keep coming across, like we were just talking, like we keep coming across narcissism a lot as well, don't we? But yeah, so it all started for you. It was quite a few years ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think I whistleblew around about 2012 or 2013.
Yeah, so that's like 10 years ago. Yeah. So you were working in child psychiatry. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just tell me a little bit more, really, just about your own journey with it, because I know it's been difficult. I mean, if you're happy to share, we did ask you that before.
Yeah, I whistleblew round about the November time, and I'd informed my seniors that I was going to do it. There was a critical incident that was due to failure of infrastructure, basically. So yeah, I whistleblew, and within about 6 weeks, I was sent home on gardening leave and told that I was under investigation for professional malpractice. And I think I probably need to flag up the fact that I'd worked at that point for not quite 30 years, but it was going on 30 years, and I don't think I'd ever had a formal complaint by a patient before. I'd had grumbles, but no formal complaints. So I was sent home, and then after about a month, I was taken back, and I was made to sit in a very small office in a unit that I didn't know, and I was told I wasn't allowed to speak to anybody, and basically I was told to summarise the NICE guidelines. So for all you non-medics out there, the NICE guidelines are sort of a standardised system of practice that we work by, and they're sort of being updated all the time. And that was kind of like saying, get on with it, mate. And I'd pretty much done it within a week. And so I was sat there for perhaps 4.5 months in a little office that I knew nobody. I wasn't allowed to speak to anybody. And I was being investigated for things that basically were silly things. For example, I'd been involved in a critical incident about a year previously, and it had been very closely managed by the seniors, and then I was investigated for doing exactly what they told me to do. And the evidence sort of miraculously disappeared, so I couldn't obviously explain what had happened, because there was no evidence. It was removed. So 9 to 5 in a little office on your own, doing nothing. It was pretty painful. It was pretty difficult. I get an idea of what people go through when they're put in solitary confinement. It sort of plays with your head a bit. So yeah, that was my first round of professional malpractice. I was then taken back to, I forgot to mention, I was cleared of all the accounts against me. I was then sent back to my regular job, and my line manager took over my diary and basically booked me in with so many patients I didn't know if I was coming or going. And I could see that they were kind of gearing up for another professional malpractice. They were sort of gathering evidence against me. And also at that time, I think I was sort of, if I can say, quite damaged from having to sit in a room on my own for nearly 4.5 months. So I was finding life very difficult at that time.
That sounds horrific, I have to say. That sounds like such intense bullying, like the solitary confinement part as well, like we can't talk to anybody. So at that time, did you have, like, obviously you had support from your family, but did you have anyone else who was supporting you professionally?
So yeah, I had behind the scenes, there were a lot of people in the health board that did support me, and there was one, I can't actually mention her name because it would put her in danger, but there was one girl especially that was absolutely fantastic to me, and I had absolutely brilliant support from the BMA, the British Medical Association. So shout out to Andrew Cross, who was my absolute saviour at that time. Yeah, I had those people were behind me.
So you weren't completely, but it sounds like, just horrific, like something you would go through, like you wouldn't expect in a professional setting, when you've got a lot of rules and regulations. I know, like, every job you have, you have a contract and you have the rules and regulations, you have everything written down, but obviously people can exploit that system, and then sounds like, it's basically bullying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a complex system of bullying where you have somebody senior who has sort of flying monkeys come and sort of set you up, and most people are bystanding because they are too frightened to stand up for you, and that's definitely what I saw. But there was one or two people that were standing by me, and they'll always be very special people to me.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, that must have been really, really difficult. So you got through. You did have some support from people around you. What kind of strength and resilience did you learn about yourself and other people and human behaviour when you went through such a difficult time?
I think I bumped into one or two people that had what I would call personality disorders. I think, I'd never really, I obviously as a psychiatrist, I'd read about narcissism, but I'd never seen anybody or nobody in my life had been obviously a narcissist. So, yeah, I bumped into one or two narcissists, and that was a bit of an eye-opener.
It's quite shocking, isn't it, when you start learning about it?
Yeah, it is.
Because I don't know about you, but obviously I've shared my personal story as well with narcissism, and it's kind of like I used to feel like I was, when you have those nightmares when you're a kid where you're like kind of screaming and nobody or no sound comes out.
Yeah.
Or you're in an emergency situation or something and you're screaming but no one hears you. That is how I felt through narcissism, and I guess it's similar to you in a way, because you didn't have a voice. They took your voice away, if you like.
I think for me it was slightly more complicated in that I actually felt sorry for the narcissist, and that sounds crazy, but I think the narcissist was, the one that was obviously a narcissist in my story was being abused at the same time. So it was all very complicated because I actually had feelings for that person.
Well, I think these things are often very complex and complicated, aren't they?
They are.
But let's have another tune now, and I just want to thank you for sharing that, because I know it's really, really difficult. And I shared my story as well, and in the end, actually, I found it kind of like a little bit freeing as well, to actually speak out loud about these things. And we were talking in the break as well how I feel like we're going to see a lot more people talking about lots of different things now, because we all need to kind of like speak our own truth, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we'll go to some more music now, and then in the next part, maybe we can talk about how this experience, you've then gone into your plan, and maybe a little bit more about your plan that you have formed to basically come to some resolutions within like, so this doesn't happen to other people. Is that the aim of the plan with the...
Yeah, we've created a 10-point plan that if I was health minister, I would be looking at something like this to make safe the Welsh Devolved Health Service, and it's our wish list based on lived experience.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because obviously you want to get the message out there, and you want to help other people, one, if they're going through it, or two, just improve working conditions generally, I guess. I mean, it's, again, another complex issue, isn't it?
I think working conditions in the devolved Welsh Health Service is a very, very wicked problem. I'm glad I'm not the person that has to sit there and sort it out, but at the end of the day, it needs to be sorted out, and it needs to be sorted out very quickly.
Yeah, and I think it's probably going to have to come from lots of different people collectively in order to sort something, to make the systemic change that's needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You are listening to Unity in Our Community on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.